So generally, I would meet with my buyers.
Okay.
We would talk about where they would like to be,
Mm-hmm.
what area they're looking at. I always ask them to be pre-approved so that I know that we're looking in the right price range.
Okay.
We're not looking too high or too low, and that they're qualified.
Right.
If they don't have lenders, I can recommend, and I usually recommend about 3 lenders that I've worked with that have really good reputations and have done very good jobs for my clients. It doesn't cost them to get a pre-approval letter, and it doesn't obligate them to that lender. So that if they end up going with someone else, that's okay. But it tells us what range they can purchase in.
Okay.
So,
So that's one way that you have, even though you don't present them with a buyer's agreement, you still you use this as a way to ensure that they're pretty serious about
yes, yeah. If somebody's serious about buying and they do that, yeah, they're ready. If they don't want to do that, then they might not be ready at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But even still, they could drag you around to 20 properties, kicking the tires of every place that they visit.
Yeah, yeah.
Because in the end, you're getting paid when the sale is made. You're getting paid on commission.
Right, right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Let's continue talking about the actual purchase, though.
Yeah. So then we go and look at property, whether it be new construction or resales.
Yeah.
They've kind of determined then maybe where they want to be, what neighborhood they want to be in, and then we zero in on the properties. When they find a property they want to put an offer in on, then I will send them comps, show them what sold in the last 6 months. If it was in the suburbs.
Where do you get that data from?
The MLS.
Okay.
You can go back and see what closed in the last 6 months, last year, last 2 years. So, in the suburbs, you might do that block, or you might do, within a quarter mile of that house. In the city, in a condo, you would first look to see what closed in the building that was comparable. And then if there wasn't much, you'd go down the block and see what's closed in the area that meets the same criteria. Say it's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, or a 2-bedroom, 2-bath.
Okay.
So you have a good idea.
All right, and then once you home in on that and identify which condo you might want to buy, then what happens? How do negotiations?
I meet with the buyer, and we write up a contract, an offer. We write up an offer, and in that we address all the terms. And you'll have a mortgage contingency. You've gotten a pre-approval letter, but until the mortgage company says yes, now we're really going to lend you the money, which is the commitment. You have a contingency for that. There's an attorney review period, and most contracts say 5 business days. In a situation, this is where when you know your clients, like if I know I have an out-of-town client, I'll ask to extend that. I'll write that to 10 business days.
Okay.
Or someone that travels extensively. We might need a little bit more time for the attorney to review. Same for inspection period, which is usually 5 days, but maybe I'll ask for 7 if the client's not available, traveling or something. Because I want the attorney to have enough time to review the results of that inspection.
Now, how does that work? You get an independent appraiser to come?
Well, the inspection is a licensed Illinois inspector.
Okay.
And he actually comes and looks at the house, and they'll check all the outlets, they'll check the appliances, they'll check the furnace. And then the buyer pays for that, and then the buyer gets a report. And if there are any issues, in some of the older homes and condos, maybe you won't have the GFCI outlets that trip, those little ones that are by the bathroom and the sink, the water ones. So if water gets, with the push button, if the water gets too close to that electricity, it automatically trips off.
I see.
Now that's been code the last number of years, but for an older home, it wasn't code back then.
Yeah.
So usually the inspectors will say, it wasn't code when it was installed, but I would recommend replacing these outlets with GFCI.
Okay.
The furnace is on its last legs. The roof needs to be redone. It's old. I can tell it's on its last legs. So all those issues then are summaried for the buyer, and then they can go to the attorney. Because we kind of jumped the gun. We're not really at contract you know, we're talking about the terms of the contract, which, you know, and if there's a house sale, like if I have to sell a condo in order to buy,
Yeah.
then I would want to add an addendum. So
Okay.
I present all the terms of the contract to the listing agent, or if it's for sale by owner, to the owner.
Yeah.
And then they review it, and they have three choices. They can accept it, reject it, or counter. More often than not, they'll counter, or accept it if it's really a good offer.
What does that mean when they counter?
That means that, well, you're offering 300 for my property that's listed at 350.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to come back and say that I'm willing to take 340.
Okay.
You know, I'm okay with you extending the attorney review. I'm okay with your mortgage commitment, but I'm not sure I want to take a house sale contingency. So that's off the table. So
Okay.
then so that agent, our owner calls me, said these are the counters, then my buyer has those same choices, accept it, reject it, or counter. When we all agree on the terms, then you have a contract.
I see.
And at that point, in the city of in Chicago, we involve attorneys. So that contract goes to an attorney for review, and then the days start counting for the inspection and the attorney review. So we do the inspection, issues have been raised. My attorney the attorney for the buyer will write a letter to the listing attorney saying the buyer would like the furnace replaced, the buyer would like credit to do the roof. So again, you're a little bit negotiating, but it's through the attorneys.
Right.
We're still involved. We're talking to the buyers. We're talking to their attorney. We're talking to the listing agents because we all want to get to the same place.
Well, how involved in this process is the actual buyer?
Very.
It almost sounds like it's in the hands of the agent. At this
No,
point.
we're only acting on their behalf.
Okay.
So, you know, they're the ones making all the decisions, and
Okay.
deciding which direction they want to go. We're the ones that are interceding.
And
with the
advising
other.
them.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
But not merely acting as middlemen.
No.
Or messengers. Or,
No, right. Because sometimes there'll be things that they don't think of.
Right.
You know, like when we're writing up an offer on new construction, they may not know that they can ask for all hardwood floors to be included in the price. Because when they went to the sales center, they were told that the hardwood floors would be an additional cost. You know, they
Right.
may not know, so there's things that we can help them with.
Okay. These inspectors are always involved in the process?
It's a good idea. You don't have to have an inspection, but I encourage my clients to. For one thing, especially for a first-time buyer like you,
Yeah.
it's an educational process. So if you're buying a home with a furnace, the inspector's not only examining everything and looking at it, but telling you about it.
Yeah.
And usually they give you, at the end of their report, it tells you a little bit about what maintenance should be done on these things,
Right.
what to look for if it's a problem. Some inspection companies go so far as to actually kind of summarize what it might cost to repair or replace an item. They give you a price range.
Okay. You learned something about the seller during the inspection.
Well, you
I'm
can,
sure,
yes,
too.
that's true, yeah. Mhm.
And before a professional inspector comes in, if the agent notices problems,
Mhm.
you know, I don't know, just
Floor is bad.
leaky
Yeah.
faucets, anything
Uh-huh.
that the buyer might not notice. Is it your
Mm-hmm.
responsibility to tell me about that? Or-
Yes, I always try to point those things out that I notice to my buyer because it can affect how they want to approach their offer,
Yeah.
you know, because, you know, okay, now this floor is kind of buckling in the corner.
Right.
You know, you're gonna, something you'll probably want to address. You might take that into consideration when you're making the offer. And then what I'll sometimes do too is I'll actually write a letter and have my buyers review it.
Okay.
Kind of, or I'll ask my buyer to write a letter to the seller.
I see.
You know, sharing their feelings about the unit.
Okay. And that can be used during negotiations? there?
Usually I present it with the offer.
Okay.
It says, you know, this is what my client's offer is, you know, we feel it's a fair offer in light of A, B, C, D.
Yeah.